Can you do an introduction of who you are and how we got connected in the first place?
I'm Buck, and we connected in the first place through our fraternity in college. And I think that, it was a fantastic experience. I think that it's easy to not get like super close to everyone because there's so many people on like so many different schedules in different colleges. But even though that was the case for us, like separate programs, separate schedules, like we still like got close. And then I remember you telling me that you were going to make the switch over from your day job
Yeah.
to being like a trainer. And then at that point, it's like, yeah, like let's do it. Like let's start working together, see some improvement. Because I think that it's like something I've been like passively trying to work on for forever, but like not seeing any results because I'm like really motivated for like a week or two, and then I like lose interest, and it's super easy for me to like she's like, well, if I take like 1 week off, that's not a problem. But then I'm like, I actually don't like the gym. And so I just like stop going, and then I'm eating like whatever I want, and like in obscene quantities. But then, with you being on top of me and like us connecting on like a regular basis, especially for that part, like made it much easier. So I mean, so that's how we got to answer the question. That's like how we got connected was through college. Professionally, I am a lab supervisor at a hospital. I supervise a team of scientists in transfusion medicine, uh, work an insane schedule. There's another supervisor, but we both kind of part on responsibilities. So when one of us isn't there, we have to take over for the other. So like this past week for me was probably one of the most insane because he was gone in Hawaii, which he deserves, right? He's an incredibly hard worker, very talented, very brilliant. And so I wasn't super upset about it, but I was working like this insane schedule and, going in early, leaving late, 12 plus hours. But in my free time, especially this summer, I'm spending it almost every single chance I get. I'm at the beach.
What would you say was the goal that you were looking to achieve?
I think at first it was just like a weight goals. Like I wanted to get back down to my high school weight because I know that, in high school I was doing a lot of sports. I was swimming, I was doing track, and I looked good, right? And I was pretty happy with like how I felt. And then maybe it was like my second year of college, I like looked down and I'm like, oh my God. And like it really like crept up on me because I really didn't notice like the weight gain at first, but then, and I don't know if anyone who sees this is gonna know, but the garbage plates, man, the garbage plates, like this giant plate of like half home fries, mac salad. I usually get like two patties on top with cheese,
Oh
the meat
yeah.
sauce, the mustard, the diced onion. Like
Onions
it's
too for days.
delicious. It's delicious.
So
And so I
good.
was having like one of those a day. And then when I look back on it now, when I look at the nutrition facts, it's like that whole thing is like 1,500 calories. And so if I'm having that just for one meal a day on top of, your normal college, like drinking, shitty foods, like late night snacks. Yeah, I was putting on weight like pretty fast. And like I was just so focused on like studying and, like developing relationships that I didn't see the weight creep up. And so by the time that we started working together, I was like, okay, I would like to get back down to before I gained all that weight in college. And now, we've reached it, we've passed it, and now we're just working on physique, like just looking looking and like looking better to like feel more confident.
What was your original weight that you started at when we were working together?
I was at 220,
What are you sitting
and
at right now?
even at my heaviest, I was like maybe like 250, I want to say, which was a lot, right? And yeah, we got me down to 180, and now I think I'm averaging about like 165.
Yeah.
And so yeah, yeah,
I'm proud as
we
hell of
made
you, man.
progress. We did it. Now, you know, we're just going for looks.
How did you feel like day to day, and what had you tried in terms of getting your weight in order before you started working with me?
You know, honestly, I didn't have too much of a problem with my weight. I it's not as if I like felt like super shitty or anything. I was still able to date. Like it didn't affect like how I felt day to day. I mean, walking upstairs was a task and a half. But I think that besides that, I felt fine. But I think that now that I've lost all this weight, I feel the difference. Right. So like what I was okay with before and now I'm like, oh, my normal could have been so much better. And so now, like, yeah, when I look back on it, I'm like, I probably shouldn't have like accepted that for myself. But day to day, was feeling okay, but really should not have been okay. And then things that I had tried before, I was like trying to do it on my own. So I was just like looking at like fitness influencers and like what kind of things that they did, like what exercises they did, what kind of meal plans that they followed. But the thing is that like their goals are like much different. And so it's like not realistic for me to just eat chicken and rice like day in, day out because I'm not prepping for a bodybuilding show. I don't have to
100%.
like Tommy like blend chicken and rice and like force it down to like get calories in, right? Because like I'm trying to cut weight, they're trying to put on weight, trying to do what they do is was not going to work. But then it was a pretty decent source of like knowledge for workouts. But the thing is like
Mhm.
in how it all comes together, like that's not something that I knew. So I'm kind of just like throwing things together and I'm like, yeah, like this is okay. I did work with a trainer once before though. Um and he's a great guy. He is extremely knowledgeable, studied it, his whole life is spent around it. But the thing is, I'm was just like not an easy person to coach because he would tell me to do something, and I'm like, "Who are you to tell me what to do?" And I'm like, the person I literally asked to. But there's like something innately in me that I'm just like, I don't like. When you're gonna clean your room, and then your mom comes over and it's like, "Hey, make sure you clean your room," and you're like,
Instantly don't want to do
no,
it.
no, I don't want to clean it. Yeah, it was very like childish of me, but um, so it was hard for me to coach. And then I made like 1,001 excuses as to like why I couldn't find the time. So I'm like, oh well, like I couldn't go grocery shopping for like healthy foods, and so I just had this, or I didn't get any like cook any meat or anything. So like my source of protein was only protein powder, and yeah, I made every excuse to do it. And the thing is that it's different when like a stranger is trying to hold me accountable because I have no real need to like impress them. And so, but I think that with like us having a relationship already, it's like, okay, well, when you tell me to do something, I don't feel like I'm being bossed around, right? I don't feel that I'm being like nagged or told what to do. It's like a friend holding me accountable. And
100%.
so like we've already had like this personal relationship, and like you're someone that I wouldn't want to like disappoint or like embarrass. And so for me, like that is what helped make it stick, is that it was like you in particular that, and like your personality, like it makes it very easy to like work with you.
What would you say is the biggest struggle you faced or pain that you were in that you were looking to solve when we were getting started?
Yeah, I mean, for me, it was finding the time to go to the gym, but also like knowing what to do when I'm in the gym, because a lot of like my problem is that I'll go and I'll have like one or two exercises in mind, but then I'm just like wandering around, like looking at the machine, looking at the dumbbells, and I'm like, well, I've seen someone on social media do this exercise before, so like maybe, and then I'm not doing it right, and I'm doing it with like poor form, and I just didn't know like what I was doing. And then also nutrition wise, I didn't really know how many calories to consume. So like even when I was trying to be on track with myself and was motivated enough to do it, I was still eating like way too much. And so those were my two big struggles, was like getting to the gym and knowing what to do, and knowing what and how much to eat.
What made you decide to take the leap, especially since none of it was in person? And what was the biggest reservation you had to overcome?
I think that talking to you about fitness is like what made me take the leap, because I know that it was something that you really wanted to like do, and you're someone that I will always do my best to support, because I had like before, like I had honestly, I was like, it would be nice to lose the weight, but if I never do, like it's not like I'm not going to lose sleep over it. But I don't think that for me, it not being in person mattered. The only thing I could ever like think of that it would matter is like my form. But I think that, you and I have talked plenty about that, in that, we'll go through videos and I'm like, hey, like this is what I'm doing. You're like, hey, okay, well, here are some really good videos and resources that you can like take a look at to like work on your form. And thankfully, gyms are like have like a ton of mirrors, and so generally, and so it's easy for me to like see myself, compare myself to like the resources that you sent. And I think that it might be more difficult if it were in person, because if you and I were training together, let's say like an hour, an hour a week, right? Or let's say like we worked out every day together, even, there are going to be days, as happens, that I get called in randomly. Like my boss will call me like while I'm sleeping. She's like, hey, like we had the situation come up with this patient. We need you to come in. And I'm like, okay, well, that day I'm just not going to be able to go. But the thing is, you've already set aside time to go to the gym, right? And so like now that's an hour wasted of your time, and now I've lost sleep because I have to go into work. And so I think that having it not in person offers like a lot more like flexibility. And it never mattered because you're always there. Like every time I text you, you're extremely responsive. You're talking to me literally every day. And although I am bad at sometimes getting back to you, um, it's not, that's on me and not on you. And so it not being in person, it's, it's never mattered because it's like you're here all the time anyway.
What would you say is the single thing that contributed the most to your success within the program? Like a secret sauce, if you will.
I haven't thought about that. I think that the thing that was most important to me being successful was it's working with you, but it's not just that it's working with you, it's that like I actually like stuck to it for once, because I didn't want to like disappoint you, because you're not like a mean trainer that like I have to like fight against, and you're like, yeah, like you got to eat these calories, you got to do 10,000 push-ups, 20,000 sit-ups, run 10 miles, right? That's not what our relationship is. And so because like you're so friendly, it's more like, oh, like if I didn't do it, you're like, okay. I mean, and you've always been very understanding when I have had like an off week, but it's like I'm not getting yelled at. And so I'm like, I gotta, I just gotta do better next week. And like that tiny amount of like guilt that I give myself is, I'm like, okay, like I just gotta do better next week and make sure that I like reprioritize. And so something that like was very useful that was not fitness related that like came out of it was like using my calendar a lot more, because like in my mind I was like, yeah, I'll just wake up at 8 and go to the gym. But then as I'm like going through my day, I'm like, oh, I actually don't have enough time to go to the gym if I wake up at this time. And so now I use my calendar for literally everything. And
Oh yeah.
that, yeah. So it is something that came out of it that wasn't fitness related that was also like a positive benefit. Cause like now I'm like, okay, if it's going to take me 45 minutes to an hour to do my workout, I need time to get ready for the day, to commute, to work out, to commute to work. I'll be at work scheduled for 8 hours and then yada. And so it has been incredibly like useful for me. To go back to answer the question, what do I think like the secret sauce was just like sticking to it, but it's because of like you and your personality that I'm like, okay, like I don't want to like disappoint you. Like I sometimes wish you had just yelled at me because then I would have been like, okay, well, I got yelled at, and so I feel perfectly justified that like I already got my punishment that I had like an off week, and so because I don't get that, I'm like, okay, well, now I just got to like do better next week. Maybe like punish myself with a little bit of guilt.
What was the biggest mindset shift you had since working with me?
After taking like a lot of time to like measure out foods to like be more careful or be more deliberate about what I'm eating. I think that is something that like I see now. So like when I'm out and about, I'm like, okay, like I want to have a pizza.
Hmm.
I know that pizza generally will be, between like this many and this many calories. And that's not something that I was thinking about before. I would just eat until I was like insanely full and be like, okay, like that was a very, very satisfying meal. But because I know that every time you've given me like diet recommendations, I always have felt like satisfied eating wise. I know it's like, okay, well, if I have 400 calories worth of pizza on top of everything else I ate for the day, I will be satisfied throughout the day. And so I don't need to have, even though it tastes delicious, I don't need to have the extra 4 or 5 slices because I'll still be satiated. And so that is something that has like helped me like moderate like how much I'm eating.
I love that. It's all about the balance. You still should enjoy all the parts of life. It's just how much of it you have,
Exactly. Everything in moderation.
except for fun.
Yeah.
But how great is life now on the other side of your transformation, especially from a non-fitness standpoint? Like, how did it impact other areas of your life?
So I know that you and I have talked about this a little bit, but I think that I get like noticed a lot more because like I'm a much more private person, and like when I'm out and about I like don't want to necessarily just be perceived, particularly by strangers. But now people will come up to me and they're like, "Oh yeah, like I saw you out here. You were the guy doing this," and I'm like, "That's not something that was happening before." And they're like, "Yeah, I just thought you were really handsome, and so I wanted to come up and say hi, but looked like you were busy." And so like now I get noticed like a lot more, and I get like a lot more attention out in public, and it is something in particular that I've noticed because it's something I was so not used to. I was used to being able to like walk into a place and kind of like blend in, and that's kind of what I preferred, but like that is no longer the case, and so it's something I've had to get used to and adjust to. But also being able to like do certain things has gotten a lot easier. So because I don't have as much weight on me, like I really like to bike around the city. It's for me the easiest way to get around since I don't drive. But now I don't have to inflate my tires as often because there's a lot less weight on them. Um, and I can go biking for longer distances. So I think that was one thing I noticed was that if I had to commute somewhere, I'm like, okay, if it's about this far, it's reasonable to bike. Otherwise, I'd have to Uber or take the train. But now I'm like, the radius in which I can bike because I'm more fit, it's a lot more. And so that saves me a ton of time and cost because the trains get delayed. They don't always go exactly where you want them to go. And so you still have to do some walking. And then Ubers, they just cost money. But I've already bought the bike. And so I think that those are two things that not specifically fitness related that I've noticed have been the most different.
How has getting to your goal actually impacted aspects of your life, like confidence, dating, work?
I so let's say like work wise, it hasn't changed much because I'm not super physically active at work. I mean, I am a scientist, but now I manage the scientists, and so it's not super like labor intensive, but one thing that I have noticed is how people I think like look at me differently from if they've seen me before. Right. So there are people in different parts of the company that I've met, I've had perfectly fine like interactions with. But then when they see me after they've lost all the weight, they're like, oh my gosh, like you look so good. And they're like, oh, like I'm sorry, like I was that appropriate to say? Like because like we're at work. And I'm like, yeah, no, that's perfectly fine. I worked hard for it and I didn't do this work so that no one else would notice also, right? So like I sincerely appreciate the compliment and like them being nice. But then I think that that niceness also carries through the rest of the interaction. And so they're like a little bit nicer to me. And so like things have worked out like well professionally because I think that things just get like slightly easier. It doesn't change any of the signs, it doesn't change any of the rules. It's more like the personal to personal interactions. And confidence wise, I feel much, much more confident. I think that even if I'm not feeling internally confident, after a while of like hearing things from like other people so many times, you like start to believe it yourself. And I'm just glad that the things that they're telling me are overwhelmingly positive. I've always just described myself like I'm just a dude. Like I'm just an average guy. But then the amount of people that will come up to me and be like, "Hey, like I just saw you from across the bar. I don't want to bother you, but I just thought you were incredibly handsome. I just had to say that. Thank you." And then like run off. Like that's incredibly nice and it's like very like validating. But after a while of like so many times like I'm still like, "Oh, like I must have just been their type because I'm just a dude." But after a while of like that happening so many times, it's kind of like a boost. You're like, "Yeah, hell yeah."
I am him.
Yeah, yeah. And so it's definitely helped me increase my confidence, especially from like external sources, but also like internally, I like see myself and I feel that I look stronger. And so internally, I'm like, that's because I am stronger. Like numerically, like we know that like I can work out for longer. I can do more workouts in a week, or I can do those workouts with like greater weights or higher intensity. Like we know objectively that I am like stronger than I was before. And so having that like objective sense feels great.
Dude, hell yeah.
Yeah.
I'm so fucking proud of you. Thank you so much. I think that's I guess I'll do one more of like, is there anything else you want to say, anything else you want to mention, any thoughts you have on the experience or otherwise? Just kind of open floor.
I think that we've covered a lot of it because again, I you can't do the work for me. And so I understand that, I did the work to get here, but I don't think that I would have been able to do that without your like help and guidance, right? Because I think that the accountability that you offer is one that I don't hear of happening often. Because like checking in with me every day, just so I'd be like, yep, like, hey, today's a really good day, or today's like not a great day. And then, if I'm like, hey, it's not a great day, you're like, well, what can I do to support you? Or, I was like recently just like forgetting to like weigh myself. And so you're like, every morning when I'm going to be awake, like just as I'm waking up, you're like, hey, go weigh yourself. And then seeing that text, I'm like, oh yeah, like I was gonna forget and just walk out the door, but I'll just go weigh myself really quick. And then now I have that now I can like stay on track. And so I think that like that kind of accountability is like something that really, really helped me be successful because I would not be here without your guidance. Right. So it's been like a very, very fantastic like partnership in that, you know, you provide guidance, I do the work, and then we assess and see like, okay, where are things going well, where are things not? And then you offer more guidance and more support. You're like, okay, well, here's what we can do to change it. Like if you're gonna have like this crazy schedule next week, like maybe we can do this. Or actually, you know, there was the request that I made, like, hey, sometimes I'm not gonna be able to make it to the gym, but I do have dumbbells and a bench at home. Could you give me workouts that are dumbbell only so that even when I am not going to have time to like commute to the gym, change, go to the gym, shower, and go to work. I can just do the workout at home, which cuts out all of that extra time. And you were like more than happy to do it. And then got it to me like incredibly fast. Also, I was like in my mind, I was like, okay, it'll take like a couple weeks. And it was like that day, the next day, maybe, that you have these workouts. And I was like, okay, well now I literally have no excuse to not work out.
Is there anything you would say to somebody who might be on the fence about joining?
I would say just do it and try it out. I mean, I think that if they were on the fence, it's something that they were thinking about anyway. And whenever you're stuck between two decisions, you should always just pick the harder one, because if it were the easy one, you would have already done it. And
Mm.
so if they're making like a ton of excuses about like not wanting to join the program, that's probably the decision that they should go with, because if the easier decision and the better decision was to not, they would have just gone with that to begin with. It's not like, you know, it's a forever commitment. It's not like, you get something implanted in you that it's like permanent, right? You can try it out, see if it's for you, and then if not, you can stop later on. So I mean, I think that, just as I noticed with myself that I was just like not a good person to be coached, or that I just had to find the right coach, that may be the case for whoever is on the fence. Not every person is like ready to make those changes and make those commitments. But if they're on the fence about it, just try it. What do they have to lose?